Hello everybody, this is Valencia and welcome to my channel Balloons in Business, where I show you the business of balloon and event decor. So today I'm going to show you a very easy balloon garland setup, and this is for beginners. And I feel like this is one of the easiest ways I can show you how to make a balloon garland backdrop. So if you want to see how I made this, just stay tuned. So I'm going to start off with my balloons. This is Sempertex brand Fashion White 11-inch balloons. I'm going to blow up 2 balloons at a time. And then I am going to underinflate them just by pressing the top of the balloon and releasing air from the bottom to make sure they're nice and round, because those looks best for a balloon garland. And also you want to prevent popping. Then I'm going to tie the 2 balloons together into a dupe. So the colors that I'm using are Sempertex Fashion White, Fashion Lilac, and Sempertex Reflex Silver in 5-inch, 11-inch, and 18-inch balloons. So that is an 18-inch balloon right there that I underinflated with an 11-inch balloon. I'm going to tie those 2 together into a dupe. And I'm going to take 2 18-inch balloons, again underinflated, and then I'm going to tie them together into a dupe. So now I'm going to take my 3 dupes that I made and twist them together into a cluster. So I have 1 dupe of 11-inch balloons, 1 dupe of 18-inch balloons, and 1 dupe with 1 11 and 1 18-inch balloon. You want to make sure you double twist your dupes into the cluster so they're nice and secure. So I'm going to show you how I assembled my Sierra wall frame. Now you could use a wood Sierra wall, but I think the easiest way to do a Sierra wall would be to buy the frames. Okay, they're very easy. As you can see, they're already connected together, and you just click the little knob there. They have numbers, so all you have to do is just match the numbers. So you just click the little knobs to form the pieces, and then you just look at the number at the end of the pieces and then just match the numbers. It's very simple, very easy. You don't have to go and make a wood wall and paint and do all of that. So this is the easiest way for a beginner to make a Sierra wall, and this is also very stable. I got this Sierra wall frame from fashionandfascinating.com. You can check the description box below this video for more information. So one of the reasons why I like working with these frame panels is because you don't have to paint them. All you have to do is just buy a cover. Now you want to make sure when you buy your cover, you buy it in the size of your frame. This frame is 7.2 feet tall by 4 feet wide. The more accurate the cover is to the frame, the better it looks. If you want to, you can also get a safety pin to safety pin the ends at the bottom, so it forms even less of a gap. Now this is my cluster. It's about 18 inches. And I'm going to take a 260 balloon. This is Sempertex brand. This is the long stretchy balloons that you make balloon animals out of. And I'm going to tie the ends of that 260 together to make like a rubber band. Now I prefer using 260 balloons over rubber bands to do this because 260s are very elastic. They have way more elasticity than rubber bands in my opinion. So now I'm going to take 1 cluster and I'm going to take my 260 rubber band and I'm going to wrap it around 2 balloons in the cluster. I prefer to wrap it around the smaller balloons because it's easier to do, but if you have to, you can wrap it around the 18-inch balloons. Then I'm going to take another cluster and I'm going to wrap that same 260 rubber band around 2 or more balloons in that new cluster. You want to wrap it around at least 2 balloons because you want a nice tight fit. Then I'm going to keep doing the same thing. I'm going to keep adding my clusters using those 260 rubber bands. So you see me wrapping it around a big balloon and then a small balloon. And then I'm going to add my silver cluster right here. And I'm going to wrap that same 260 around 2 balloons in that silver cluster. Now, the cool thing about adding your clusters with the 260 balloon is you can rearrange your clusters as you see me doing right now to fill in gaps, to make sure that, you don't see through your balloon garland. So I believe that this is one of the best methods for a beginner to use. Me personally, I like to tie the necks of the balloons together, but I know that can be a little tricky for beginners. So that's why I'm showing you guys the 260 method. It is also very versatile. If you need to take a cluster out, it's very easy to unwrap the cluster out of the 260 balloon. So right now I'm just adding my clusters to make what I call my balloon garland base. So I've used a total of 8 clusters of 6 dupes to make my balloon garland base. So now I'm taking a 4.5-inch backdrop clip and a 260 balloon, which I'm going to tie together into a rubber band again. And I'm going to put that in the mouth of that clip. Then I'm going to clip the side of my panel. I'm going to align my balloon garland base with my panel. And then I'm going to wrap that 260 around the closest balloon on that balloon garland. You don't want to snag it too much, so find the closest balloon on there to wrap it around. And then I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom, right there where it starts to curve at the panel. And then at the very top. When I get to the top, I'm going to clip at the back. I'm not going to clip where you can see it at the top. And the reason why I do this is because sometimes the balloon garland tends to dip at the top. And so to prevent that, you want to kind of pull the balloons back. So put the clip in the back, not the front. By doing that, it keeps the balloons on top of the panel without dipping down into the front, if that makes sense. So now I'm going to take another 260 rubber band and I want to thicken up my balloon garland. So I'm adding another cluster of 6 balloons to that white cluster at the bottom. And then I'm going to do the same thing with another purple cluster. So I'm going to add another cluster of 6 balloons to that purple cluster, because I just want to fill my balloon garland out a little bit. I want it to be a little bit full, especially at the bottom. I want it to look like it's spreading out a little bit. Now you can do this all the way up, but I am just going to add another cluster of 4 balloons. That's 4 11-inch balloons to that white cluster right there. I've tried to thicken my balloon garlands up by doing 4 clusters all the way up, but it was just too thick for me. I didn't like the shape. So now that I got my balloon garland shaped the way that I like it, I'm going to add my 5-inch decorator. So I'm going to take a manual pump and just blow 2 times into each balloon, round them out and tie them together into dupes, just like I did with the bigger balloons. But I'm going to do clusters of 4. And then I'm going to take a half of a 260 balloon, tie it one end around that cluster of 4, and then wrap the other end around the balloon in the balloon garland and tie that 260 into itself. And that's how I'm adding my 5-inch clusters. Now, if you want to, you can add your 5-inch clusters using a real rubber band. So you can just get a large rubber band and then wrap it around one of the 11-inch balloons, and you can add your 5-inch clusters that way. Again, I prefer the 260s because they're very stretchy. So if I need to wrap it around an 18-inch balloon, it's a lot easier when I'm using the 260 balloons. So I'm just going to add on my 5-inch clusters, and I'm adding them at a ratio of 1 5-inch cluster to 1 larger cluster. So here's the finished balloon garland. I used 118 balloons total, 54 5-inch balloons, 36 11-inch balloons, and 28 18-inch balloons. So now I'm going to add a sign that I made out of my Cricut machine and poster board. I'm going to be using some U-glue dashes to attach it to my fabric cover. And so you just take your U-glue dashes, you put them on the poster board sign, and you just take the paper off. And then you want to firmly rub that U-glue dash onto the fabric cover. Do not be afraid to do that, because you can take these signs right on off. The U-glue dashes will not leave residue on your fabric cover. So you want to put U-glue dashes at several points on the sign to make sure it's nice and secure. Again, I made this with my Cricut machine and poster board, and I will leave a link to the video on how I made this signage in the description box below this video. So here's the finished product to this sheer wall balloon garland setup. Again, I will leave all my information in the description box below this video, including a link to how I made the Congrats Grad signage. So if you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, go ahead on and like it, and please subscribe, and you'll get notifications on future videos on balloon and event decor. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.